speak English? I speak English. How do you feel? I feel fantastic, my friend. We play very nice today, especially we're playing against Messi. So you know who's Messi. But today, Saudi Arabia win.
We forgot Messi, forgot all Argentinians. All Argentinians, we forgot them. We are Saudis. We are Saudis. We are the best team in this day.
No one can believe it. The first game, and you came against Argentina, and you win. That's amazing. No one can believe it. But we did it.
Leading the conversation on the global game, this is World Football in Qatar on the BBC World Service.
Messi, where are you? Messi, we beat you. That's the chant of the Saudi Arabia fans after watching their team stun one of the favourites to win the World Cup, Argentina 2-1 on Tuesday. Hello, this is Manny Jasmi. Welcome to the podcast. It was the first time since the very first World Cup that Argentina lost a match in the tournament after taking the lead. And after Poland and Mexico's boring 0-0 draw, Saudi Arabia are top of Group C after the first round of matches. Lee James was with the group who must now be called Qatar's noisy neighbours.
Well, Manny, I picked the perfect place to watch this moment of World Cup history because just next to the Corniche is the Al Dafna Park. It's underneath the skyscrapers of West Bay, and it is where hundreds of Saudi Arabian fans gathered for that special moment because in front of the giant screens here is the House of Saudi Arabia. It's an area that has been created for so many of the fans that have travelled here to Doha to be a part of this World Cup. Great scenes of celebration. The flags were being waved when those two goals were scored and Saudi Arabia were able to beat Argentina. So let's find out what some of the fans here have made of that performance.
I am very happy. Today, alhamdulillah, we trust about our team. Today, Argentina is lost. Today is very, very happy. We celebrate all Saudi Arabia and here. Alhamdulillah, we feeling is very good.
And tell us about this place, all the Saudi Arabian fans here. Have you travelled over from Saudi Arabia?
Yes, we travel from Saudi Arabia to here to support our team. And alhamdulillah, we are come and celebrate and win of Argentina and Messi. Alhamdulillah, we trust about our team 100%, inshallah. We will go together with England.
How many Saudi Arabian fans do you think are here?
I think 1 million. 100,000 maybe, like this. All the people here is support us. But Brazilian, we saw him today with us. Neymar.
The Brazil fans were with Saudi Arabia today.
Yes, of course. Of course.
I have found someone with an Argentina shirt on in the House of Saudi Arabia. How does it feel to be in your position right now?
Very, very bad, to be honest. Yeah, they deserve it. They played very well. Argentina were slacking. You know, I don't know, maybe they were like underestimating Saudi Arabia. They were thinking that it will be very easy. Their performance went down and Saudi were very good, so they deserve it.
And next to you, with an Argentina shirt but covered by a Saudi Arabian flag, are you now waving your flag?
No, actually I'm supporting Messi, but also I'm from Oman. I support Saudi Arabia. What Saudi Arabia, the team did today, it's really amazing for us. They play very, very well. Man, if they can win another match, it will be really, really great for us, and we hope they go and qualify to the next level.
What was it like being here, watching your team beat Argentina?
Really, I can't believe it. This is much because in our dream, all about the people in Saudi Arabia. But now, really, I am living in the dream. Alhamdulillah, we are win. We did it.
No Messi. This win for Cristiano. No Argentina. No Messi.
We say here in Saudi Arabia, Messi bueno, كسرنا عينه.
Messi bueno, كسرنا عينه. Yeah, Messi bueno. No Argentina, no Messi.
Always worth remembering that Argentina lost their first game at the 1990 World Cup and still got to the final. And in 2010, Spain lost their first match against Switzerland and ended up winning the tournament. Cesc Fabregas was in that squad. In fact, he set up the World Cup winning goal. Here's his assessment of the 2022 Spanish team, who begin their competition against Costa Rica on Wednesday.
I believe that we can get into semi-finals the same way that it happened at the Euros. You know, we used to have a lot of players from Real Madrid, from Barcelona, from Valencia, Arsenal, Liverpool, like top teams. Now it's a little bit more mixed. You see players from Villarreal, you see players from Celta de Vigo, you see players from all over the league, which is good. And it's nice to see because that means that the league is growing and potentially anyone can be called up for the national team. But at the same time, it gives you a little bit of that feeling that it's a bit unexpected. You know, we could be really good, or some players that play in lower teams to play in a World Cup could affect them mentally or not. You don't really know, and I haven't been part of it in the last few years for me to know what is in there. But let's see if the coach, he knows exactly what he's doing. He's an experienced coach, and hopefully the team will do well, and we will be behind them all the way.
Are you worried about their ability to score enough goals?
You don't need to score many goals to win the World Cup. We won every game 1-0, really, and we lost the first game 1-0. So from our experience, we were a really good team and we didn't score enough goals, but we were, as I said to you, we were very competitive. We defended very well, which is key in a World Cup. The defense will need to be on point. And then after that, you need to take your chances, but you need to know how to control games. I think in Spain, we have that quality, the technical ability superior to other countries, and we need to use that.
Do you think there's a quality in the character of this team that gets the job done most of the time? They got to the semi-finals of the Euros, they got to the final of the Nations League. There seems to be an ability to find a way.
Yeah. And this is a way to compete. But you're right, because at the beginning of these tournaments, nobody expects Spain to be there, and they end up being there. It's like we always start a little bit sloppy, but then we get on with it, and without playing brilliantly, we get into semi-finals, into final. Now we are again in the final four for this Nations League. So we will see what happens. It will be interesting to see how the young team and the young generation competes.
You won the Golden Boy Award in 2007. It's about the best young player of the year. This year, it's Gavi, the much talked about midfielder at Barcelona. Luis Enrique says that he's like an erupting volcano when he plays. What do you think of Gavi? And could he and Pedri, the two young stars in that team, could they take Spain, I don't know, maybe all the way?
Well, we're hoping. We believe in them. We're relying on them because definitely I think they will be the two midfielders that will be starting the games for the World Cup together with Busquets, most probably. I don't know about this one, but I think Gavi and Pedri will be starting most of the games if they are fit. So we definitely rely on them because in my view, how I see football and how I understand football, a lot of the battles in world football at any level are won in midfield. If your midfield is strong, you have a lot of chances to win. And if your midfield is weak and open and, with no kind of understanding of the game or ability to be compact in certain moments or how to play from there, it will be tough. So we believe in them. I think we have a lot of quality. Physically, we will not be the strongest because we are not. This is not our nature. But in terms of quality and technical ability and ball playing especially, I think we are up there with the best.
Says Fabregas. Wednesday's last game is Canada versus Belgium. Only one of Canada's players was alive the last time they were at the Men's World Cup in 1986, and they're still waiting to score their first goal in the tournament. I'm joined by Rob Nottenboom from Canada's Voyageurs supporters group. So how has the voyage of the fans been so far, Rob, and how many are there of you, and how expensive is it for you all?
It's a little difficult to put numbers on it. We're broadly aware of lots of people. I'd say we're here in the hundreds, probably not in the thousands. Expensive? Yeah, lots of people have been saving for a long time. A good friend of mine actually has been saving for 25 years for the chance to maybe go back to the World Cup, and it finally happened. But to support your team, that's sometimes what you have to do, and it's been worth it to us. Yeah, I'll have to remind him that, you were saving a long time and you didn't buy me very many beers at the pub to drown our sorrows from previous Canada qualifiers. It's not an easy trek, obviously, I'm from a smaller prairie city, and people from Vancouver are even farther away. So, but it's Canada in the World Cup after 36 years, and our team is a team I think lots of us are in love with. So lots of us could not say no to coming over and supporting them here while we're here.
Well, you got to do what you got to do, Rob, haven't you? Nowhere near as long a wait for Ghana, who were at the 2014 World Cup, but perhaps slightly surprising that they're in Doha, given how bad they were at the Africa Cup of Nations in January when they lost to Comoros and finished bottom of their group. George Addo from Joy FM is also with us. Is joy the word to describe Ghanaians' feelings about being at the World Cup, possibly mixed with surprise, George?
Yeah, you were spot on. Yeah, joy, because the Africa Cup of Nations was the worst performance we have put out there. I mean, in a group that had Comoros, Morocco and Gabon, we failed to win a game, and that was really, really bad. The fact that we lost to Comoros in that final group game in Cameroon. And then came our rivals, Nigeria, in the World Cup qualifier. Many of us were not sure what to expect from the team. We had to change the technical team with Coach Otoado. We went into the game 2 legs. We did not win a game, but we managed to squeeze the juice out of Nigeria and qualify for the World Cup. So it's joy. The word is joy.
All right, guys, so what's it been like? What are your early impressions of Doha?
I think the word I've been using to describe it has been surreal. Didn't know what to expect, really. It's a very modern city with some interesting older sections. On the ground, though, we've been so busy trying to prepare to support the team, and some of us have been seeing other games. It's just been kind of running from place to place to place. Get 4 hours of sleep, get up in the morning, quickly haul off somewhere after having a coffee maybe, and then realizing 12 hours later that you haven't had a meal. and that's been most of the previous 4 or 5 days. There's lots of fans. It's quite festive. Down in the Souk Waqif has been very fun every night, and everybody's been enjoying that. And then there's been some difficulties too. Food at the stadium has been difficult to get. There are long transit rides and sometimes long walks, even from the end of the transit to the stadium. But as far as World Cups go, I have nothing to compare it to. I've never been to a World Cup. I was at the Women's World Cup in 2015, but that was in my home country in Canada, so that isn't really a good comparator to this.
I'm still having to check the body clock because it's 3 hours ahead of Ghana.
I hear you.
Yeah, so we're still in the process. The good thing for me is that I think that the Ghanaians in the city has probably doubled or tripled. Based on the numbers I saw at the Black Stars Hotel before the Black Stars arrived here in Qatar.
We'll talk more about Ghana in a few minutes, but as I said, this is a momentous World Cup for Canada. They qualified after 20 matches, finishing above regional powerhouses USA and Mexico in their final group. It might be the men's first appearance for 36 years, but for their coach, Englishman John Herdman, it's a 4th World Cup. He was at the 2007 and 2011 Women's World Cups with New Zealand, and as Rob alluded, the 2015 tournament at home in Canada with the hosts. He also led Canada to consecutive Olympic bronze medals, which in women's football is a major tournament. His goalkeeper for the women's team was Steph Labbe, who gave me this assessment of Herdman.
You know, John came into our program at the end of 2011, right after we had finished last place in the 2011 World Cup, and our team was quite broken. And John came in and was able to impact, every single player, from the best player on the team to the player that just got called in for their first camp. He was able to come in and get everybody to become vulnerable, to talk about the things that, were challenging for us. But to get everybody on the same page and make everybody feel like they are important and they matter and they are valued. And I think that's ultimately what got that team to 9 months later finish on the podium in 2012. But at the same time, he brought in this understanding of football and had us thinking about the game in a totally new way. The way that he sees the game, the way he coaches the game, allows a player to, number one, have independence, but also take a leadership position in their own game to learn and understand and really see the game from a totally different perspective. So he completely, changed our program, and he got us from people who played football to people who understand football. And when you have a group of players who understand the game in a totally different way, they're able to succeed in a different way. And he really was able to find a way to get the absolute best out of every single individual.
That is quite a reference for a coach. He sounds like a very empathetic guy, not an old-fashioned football coach who says it's my way or the highway.
Yeah, I think for me, my most impactful conversation with him, I remember in 2016 leading into the Olympics, myself and another goalkeeper, Sabrina D'Angelo, we were fighting for that starting position leading into the Olympics, and we were going back and forth with games, and we didn't really know, who was going to be playing in that tournament. And I remember him sitting me down and just telling me, we're investing in you and we're committing to you, and this is going to be your tournament. And I think just kind of taking that weight off my shoulders and just giving me that freedom to just like relax and just be me, and me coming out of it with this like huge sense of like confidence and belief in myself, and knowing that he had the belief in me and the trust in me, then I was able to go out and really just be the best that I could be.
Canada's one of those rare countries where I guess the women's team has a higher profile than the men's team, because the women's team has been more successful. Has the status of the men's team changed, the profile of the men's team?
Yeah, I mean, obviously they qualified for the World Cup this year, and I think that has really put them on the map in Canada and raised, a few of them into household names. And, that in general is great for soccer in our country. But I think what's important is that we recognize, who laid the foundation and who really brought up the opportunities and brought this country into a talking point in the world, and that's the women's team. 3 back-to-back Olympic medals, including an Olympic gold. This team really is the team that has performed on the world stage, not just got there, but performed and won medals and been on the podium. And their success is as much as our success, and I think it's really important that we continue to leverage that and use each other to continue to move the sport forward in our country and continue to fight for the things that matter.
That's Canada's former goalkeeper, Steph Labbe. I don't know about you, George, but I wish John Herdman was sorting out my life. It sounds like they're going to win the World Cup after that assessment.
Certainly. That would be a big surprise to me if Canada win the World Cup. But look, obviously, it can happen, Rob. It can happen. I know it's a game of football.
Rob, for Canadian soccer fans, is John Herdman basically a national hero?
I mean, if he's not, he seems to be well on the way there. It's very hard to wrap your head around what he's achieved with the women and then with the men. I think when he made the switch over from the women to the men, there were some very dismissive kinds of attitudes towards that move, and he basically has just done a job, and he's proven all of his doubters wrong. And like you mentioned, you could use him as a life coach. He must be one of the premier managers of players, especially on the psychological aspect, on the planet. Everybody who plays for him, that I've heard at least, seems to want to run through a brick wall after a certain amount of time. There have been stories about the men's team originally having doubts, and then they started to produce, and now look where they are. It's very remarkable to see. I wish I had more intel into how he achieved it. Maybe I could use it on my teenagers.
I mentioned Canada's 20 World Cup qualifiers that they had to go. 20. How many of those did you go to, and when did you start to believe that Qatar was actually going to happen?
When did I start to believe? I'm not sure I ever fully believed until it for sure happened, but I went to 7. They were the home qualifiers in Canada. All of those 7, I had pretty significant travel. The closest ones were Edmonton, which is an 800-kilometer drive for me, which is just a typical, average prairie driving day.
That's how far you have to travel to get some milk, isn't it?
Yeah. Some of the larger groceries. Milk is only 400 kilometers at the local convenience store. But no, it was a 3-hour flight to Toronto for me to go to most of the other ones, and then one was at Hamilton. But I think what really caught people was the Alphonso Davies wonder goal, 70-yard sprint to pick the ball off the sideline and score against Panama. And I've never been in an airport in Canada where all they were showing was the highlight of that goal on the various sports networks over and over and over again.
That's how Canada qualified. George, Ghana qualified in probably the best possible fashion by beating the neighbours, the rivals, Nigeria, in what became dubbed as the Jollof Derby, in reference to the dish. German-born coach Otto Addo guided them through to that. They are the lowest ranked nation in the World Cup. Are Ghana on the rise, George? Do you even care, given that they're there now?
Yeah, I mean, I really don't care about the ranking. Maybe if you look at the way we played in those months, we hadn't really won a lot of games, and the Africa Cup of Nations were not impressive. So we are the lowest ranked team. We love that. But I'm certainly sure that this team is on the rise. The new technical team headed by Coach Otto Addo simply know their way around, because they picked up a Black Stars team that was in tatters and lacked a lot of organization, and that was so clear to see as we played against Gabon, Comoros and Morocco. We badly needed to get into shape, and they managed to do that right after taking over this job. We had to play against Nigeria, and if you'd followed the Africa Cup of Nations, Nigeria were flying until Tunisia clipped their wings in that crazy round of 16 game. Going to play against Nigeria, a lot of Ghanaians were pessimistic about it. We were not sure. We really were not thinking about the World Cup. But we said, well, this is a derby match. This is a rival game. Let's give it a go. The first leg was in Kumasi in Ghana. We ended that game goalless, and then we had to go into Abuja to get the job done. I wanted to call the Moshood Abiola Stadium, like the Lion's Den, because here we are, Ghana against Nigeria. The whole stadium was full to rafters, and I think it was about 60 to 70,000, and outside perhaps another 60,000 to come and watch the demolition of the Ghanaian team, who were lacking in confidence. Somehow, Thomas Partey scored the first goal. Nigeria equalized through the penalty. Nigeria scored a goal. That was another scare for us, really. But then VAR, ruled that out offside, and it meant that we had an opportunity to stick in there. I was in the stadium. Luckily that day I was not on commentary duty. I didn't know how I was going to survive if I was on commentary duty, because I was going through the emotions, and Victor Osimhen was, threatening the Ghanaian goal, left, right, center, every minute, and we were just waiting for the referee to whistle for the end of the game, and he finally did. It was 1-1, and it was enough to knock out Nigeria and qualify to the World Cup.
Right, so you can't really remember much detail about how you qualified against Nigeria. Fair enough, George. I tell you what, it's a good job Ghana didn't have 20 qualifiers. We'd be here all day.
That's right.
One of Otto Addo, the Ghana coach, one of his most significant and controversial strategies was to persuade players with dual nationalities to switch their allegiance to Ghana. Iñaki Williams, Mohamed Salisu and Tariq Lamptey all won their first caps during friendly matches in September. Williams actually has an international cap for Spain, while Lamptey represented England from under 18 to under 21 level, and even was playing for England's youth team earlier this year before he switched in July. But I asked him, would you have switched if the big, fat, juicy carrot of a World Cup wasn't dangling in front of you?
No, I don't think you play football thinking about things like that. Obviously, you can't really control what people say about me. I'm just really happy to be there, and I work really hard to make sure that I'm on top form for when I'm called upon, and I'm always grateful for the opportunity.
Your coach at Ghana, Otto Addo, before your switch was announced, he said that whoever decides to play for Ghana, they have to carry on beyond the World Cup, play in the places where it takes 2 days to travel, on the terrible pitches, in the terrible weather. Are you up for that?
To be honest, I'm not going to lie. I'm someone that loves football, and I just love playing the game. When you make a commitment to something, you make sure that you give your best every time you're called upon. And like I said, I'm always training hard. I'm always trying to improve myself, and I'm always, when I'm called upon, ready to help the team. What's
been the reaction? Have you heard from relatives in Ghana, or have Ghanaians messaged you on social media in the last 3 months ever since you declared for them?
Yeah, I just want to say a massive thank you to the fans, because their love and their support has definitely been received well, and I'm really grateful to have great fans like that.
Do you know the anthem?
Yeah, no, of course I know the anthem. We sang it last camp in both games, so that's something that you have to learn, and I know it. I've watched Ghana lots of times. I think I've even been to MK Dons to go see them play, so I'm familiar with them.
I think Tariq Lamptey passes the World Football Citizenship test there. He knows the anthem. That's all you need, really. George, how has the decision by Lamptey and others gone down among fans and also among the players who have missed out?
I think initially it was mixed because, to be fair, there are a section of Ghanaians who were viewing it this way. Why would you want to join the national team or why would you want to switch nationality when the Black Stars have qualified for the World Cup? Is it because you're probably not going to get a starting berth in the other country, in quotes, in England, in Germany, in Spain? And you think that perhaps because we lack quality, you're going to walk into this team just that, that's one view of it. And so some Ghanaians were almost against it. It's not Tariq Lamptey's fault that he was born in England. It's not Inaki Williams' fault that he was born in Spain or has this kind of profile. So it is really up to the players to decide what or when they want to play for the national team. The performances in the friendly games and some of the pre-World Cup friendlies that we've seen clearly indicates that there was a lack of quality, and these guys have come in and helped the team in terms of quality. So on the balance of things at the moment, Ghanaians are very much okay with these boys coming in. If there's an opportunity, we'll go for more. If Canada were not very quick with Alphonso Davies, we will go for Alphonso Davies because he was born in Ghana to Liberian parents anyway, refugee camp in Bujumbura. We'll probably have come for Alphonso Davies. So the door is wide open, Manny. If you have any Ghanaian league, let's know. We'll be coming for you.
I mean, I said we would have to arm wrestle over Alphonso Davies, but I know that I'd lose that one. So, you said Canada was quick. Canada wasn't quick coming for Davies. He developed all from a young child all the way up to adulthood in Canada. So it was a very long development. That's the reason we got him. Our entire starting 11 could have played for another country.
Yeah.
But Rob, in Canada's case, it's a slightly different. The issue is approached from a different angle because your team reflects the multicultural makeup of the country. Are there fans who would normally support another country at the World Cup because maybe they were born there or their parents are from there, but now can support Canada in the World Cup?
I mean, the short answer is yes. There was a whole advertising campaign for Italian Canadians to support Canada, put on the red this time, led by Sebastian Giovinco, which is quite hilarious, actually. I mean, as somebody with a whole raft of European lineage myself, I've had to default to supporting Wales or supporting the Netherlands or supporting Scotland because that's where my grandparents, actually my father was born in Holland, but they all came from away. Couldn't support my national team. But there has been a real gravitation over to Canada. There have been those of us who have been supporting Canada even in the very darkest of times for the men's team, and lots who that wasn't interesting enough for them and they supported whatever home country they happened to immigrate from. That is turning, but it's a big ship, and I think it's going to take a lot of rudder to have it turn fully so that you just don't have quite as much groundswell for other nations and you have more for Canada.
What's a realistic aim for your two teams, starting with you, Rob?
Oh, are you going to make me do this? Most supporters don't have set ideas of where we're going to go because we haven't even scored a goal at the World Cup. If we score a goal at the World Cup, we're going to celebrate. If we score 2, we're going to celebrate. If we get a draw, we're going to celebrate. If we get a win, we're going to celebrate. If we make the knockout round, we're really going to celebrate because I think that's well overachieving for us, knowing the group that we're in and what we're up against.
This is the 4th time I've been to the World Cup. So, Manny, a good place to start for us will be first get out of the group and let's see what comes from there.
Canada play later on Wednesday. Ghana play Portugal on Thursday. Thank you, both of you, Rob Notenboom and George Addo. What are you both going to do now? It's lunchtime in Doha. Where are you going next, Rob?
I'm going in an Uber to make a delivery of banners. I'm not sure if I'm going to eat till later tonight again.
I'll be heading out with my colleague Gary. I'll make a few rounds in town, but we'll get some Ghanaian food to eat today for sure.
I feel like I should come back and join you.
Yeah, okay, you can, right?
Enjoy both and enjoy your opening matches. Good luck. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mani.
Before we go, just listen to Tunisia's fans outside the Education City Stadium celebrating their 0-0 draw with Denmark on Tuesday. There are more than 30,000 Tunisians living in Doha, and it sounds like they were all there. Imagine if they'd scored. Imagine if they'd won. Speak to you next on Thursday.